Welcome to Lock It Down Sports. I'm your host, Locke Hoover. You can follow me on X at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on X. You can also check us out at E5280 Sports. That's E5280 Sports. Welcome to Lock It Down Sports. And today on the show, the Braves finally make a move. What we know about these NFL playoff teams and the college and NFL playoffs. And that's where we're going to start today. And that's the college football national title game. And the ratings were down, which was interesting. It's hard to figure that out, hard to really place a number on it. I mean, there's all kinds of theories on that. We might get into that a little bit next week. But I want to talk a little bit more about the game in itself. And that was Notre Dame trying to make it a game. And they did that kind of at the end. Towards the end, they made it somewhat compelling where it's kind of engaging. As, you know, they had a big thing to battle TV-wise on Monday night, and that was obviously the presidential inauguration. So I'm sure that might have been some of the ratings for it, but some of the ratings dropped. But just, I think the score, the effects of it, of how it started and was going, had a issue from it as well. I mean, to me, Notre Dame scored that first touchdown. It was a long, grinded out drive that almost took 10 minutes, 9.5, 10 minutes of the first quarter. And Ohio State didn't get it back with about 5 minutes left, I believe. And I mean, they didn't score for the second quarter. But their drive, Ohio State made it look easy. You know, they're driving down the field, just the speed of their players and their cuts and their drives, and that first drive on that first touchdown, like, that's that's promising for Ohio State. They made that look super easy compared to the battle that was Notre Dame's long grinded out drive. And I feel like that's really what we saw. Every drive was easy for Ohio State, putting up touchdowns and points on the board. Whereas after that first drive in the first half, during that first half, Notre Dame couldn't really do anything. Yeah, like I said, they made it close at the end within one score. But then Ohio State hit that field goal to basically ice it away, being up 11. So now they're up to 2 scores with a minute and a half or less, something like that. So they couldn't really do anything after that. Yeah, they made it close. They got it within a game-ish, but that's kind of what that was at. And I think the interesting thing about this whole title game is, I don't know if either team would have been in the playoffs if it was a 14 playoff. I think Oregon and Texas were the only locks in this 14 playoff. Yeah, and even Texas, there was some up and down conversation. For sure, Oregon was the only lock. And I'm going to say loosely Texas. And then it's a toss-up route of who the other two teams are. Do you go one loss Notre Dame, whose only loss was a bad one to a terrible Northern Illinois team, but it was early in the season. So that's obviously, helped. You have Indiana, one loss, but that was to Ohio State. You have a 2-loss SEC champ, Georgia, who beat Texas twice. But I say they're a maybe because they were without their starting quarterback. And we saw how Florida State got punished without their loss of a quarterback the year prior. Tennessee 2-loss team, probably outside looking in, but had a better resume. Losses weren't as bad as Georgia's losses. And then you have a 2-loss Penn State team, that second loss coming in the title game, with their losses being to Oregon and Ohio State. How can you put Penn State in over Ohio State? Yada, yada, that whole thing. Then you have Ohio State, two-loss team. One a very bad loss, obviously, to Michigan. And then the, Oregon loss, which is not a bad loss. But you have a bad loss to your rival, Michigan, a 6-6 Michigan team on the last day of the season before title games. They might not even make it a 14 playoffs, and yet they go on and rattle off and win the national championship game. I mean, I think they're by far one of the most talented teams. They spent the most money on their team as well. But they dominated everyone in that postseason. Tennessee, Oregon, Notre Dame, outside of Texas. Of the three teams, Texas was their closest matchup, which that surprised me. I mean, I figured it'd be Oregon. I was talking to friends and people. I thought, the winner of Oregon Ohio State would win the Natty. It was obviously, I thought that was going to be their closest and tightest game, and of course it wasn't. But they were by far the best team in that postseason, without a doubt. They earned it. They deserved to win the national championship based on their postseason play. With a 4-teamer, I don't think they're getting in. They probably aren't. But that's the world we live in now with the 12-team playoff. And that's where we're at. They're going to be good again next year. They're going to spend a lot of money in the portal and the NIL, because that's another stage of the game we are at with college football. Now, something that was very much needed, but I am a little bit nervous about it, and that's Jerson Profar's 3-year, $42 million deal with the Braves. The Braves need an upgrade in the outfield. Yes, absolutely. I'm happy that they were able to make a move and not blow up their luxury tax. They said they weren't going to go over the luxury tax. We're going to that in a minute. But they need an upgrade in the outfield, especially with Ronald Acuna out. You had Harris, a platoon of Jared Kelenic, and probably Brian De La Cruz in as your right fielder platoon until Acuna comes back. And then you got a big question mark out there in left field. That's been solved with Jerson Profar. Yes, his StatCast metrics say last year wasn't a fluke, because last year was his career year. And Braves have been very big on two things when it comes to StatCast and metrics. And he's high on both these. That's his hard hit rate and exit velocity. That's a big thing for the Braves. When you look at every one of their players, hits the ball hard. I know you don't hear the name, but Sean Murphy struggled last year. No, he still really did do well, was he hit the ball hard. And that's a big metric for the Braves, what they look for. And Profar's very above average on his exit velo and his hard hit rate. Now, so that's the good thing. But like I said, it does make a little bit nervous, as he's had 2 good years in his 11-year big league career. One was back in 2008 at age 25. As a second baseman, you take this. And I guess you take this as a left fielder too. But at age 25, just getting going, a few years into the league, he had 20 homers, 77 RBIs, 254 average, a 793 OPS. You jump a few years. By a few years, I mean from 18 to 24, 2024, age 31. That was last year, the Padres. 24 homers, 85 RBIs, 280, 839 OPS. Those are two best years. Now, Anthopoulos, he's come out and said they believe in his swing change. Of course, they were going to sign, of course, you're going to say that they believe in him. They believe in the swing change, and what he did last year with the Padres was real. Interesting enough, Ronald Acuna had an offseason where offseason training sessions with Fernando Tatis Sr. Well, last year, guess who Jerison Profar had worked with in the offseason? Fernando Tatis, exactly. Senior. So maybe there's some correlation to that of, some connection of this guy really does know what he's doing, obviously. And I think another thing that does make me feel a little bit better with Alex Anthopoulos at the helm is he's seen two recent late bloomers do his things, or he's seen one of the two late bloomers I'm about to talk about. And the first one, Jose Bautista. He was there in Toronto when Jose Bautista turned it around at age 29, or not turned it around. Let me phrase that. Figured it out at age 29 after bouncing around for 6 years, basically. Even his first year in Toronto was Then he went off at age 29, had a good 6-year run with Toronto, like that stretch, middle of the order threat. And then he had some good to so-so years after, continue out his contract, but had a good 6-year run with Jose Bautista, and he saw that change in him and was the GM in Toronto with that. So that's promising of, okay, no, this is real. Let's go get this guy. We like what we're seeing with him and that. And then the other late bloomer that turned into have a good career and a great stretch run, age 31 season, Justin Turner. After some early years with the Mets as like a solid utility guy, age 31, and then his first year with the Dodgers, okay. And then age 31, boom, he took off a 6 great year run with the Dodgers. And then his last really good year with Boston in 23. Then as a platoon player last year at age 40, he's okay. But that age 31 season with Turner, he got that run with the Dodgers. So there's two recent fits for, prototypes, late bloomers, Jerson Profar's averages and examples where, it's been done recently. And it feels good to me that one of them was underneath Anthopoulos as the GM. Now, how does he fit in Atlanta? Obviously, he got him for his bat. Because he's not a great fielder, and the metrics will tell you that. Has a strong arm, but not great range. And you can, with your outfielder, I think you can live with that. Because you've got Harris out there who's going to cover a lot, and Ronald as well. So you're okay with that. And then if you want to, late game replacement, you can put in Jaron Kelenic if you want to for the defensive aspect as well. On the outfield now, really, you feel good about your outfield. When Acuna's come back, Harris and Profar, obviously, you feel really well. Before that, you're going to piece it together with Kelenic and probably Brian De La Cruz. And if you get solid production from them for that month and a half, hopefully it's a month and a half, maybe 2. Hopefully it's not that far. You're still going to have a solid outfield with Harris, Profar, and the platoon of Kelenic and Brian De La Cruz. I'm assuming Brian De La Cruz as opposed to Eli White, but that's a spring training battle to wait and see. Now, I think also too, the Braves are in a win now window, and it just makes their lineup deeper. They were still a good baseball team. There's no doubt. It makes their lineup deeper. Where do you bat them? I know that's a conversation you can talk to it 2 ways from Sunday. Do you lead them off without Ronald Acuna? Or when Acuna's back, do you bat him second because he has a good on base percentage? Or do you hit him fifth, sixth, seventh, and have Michael Harris or Ozzy in that two slot, and then the other one fifth, sixth, or seventh? I think it might be the lefty righty matchup. That's or how guys are hitting at the time, and it helps he's a switch hitter. So I mean, there's some options. And even to me, if he regresses even to not putting up his career year or close to his career year, say he goes 20-70, but then bats 275 and has a good slug, OPS, and on base percentage, you're going to take it. I mean, I would. I'd be happy with 20-70 and 275 average. Heck yeah, you take that down there, especially in that 6-7 hole even. If he drops, if that's where he slotted, And I don't still think the Braves are done. Like I said, they have, from the reports, they got up around 8 to 10 million in money to work to not go over the luxury tax. There's your fifth starter right there. It's here, Max Scherzer. I know we just saw you at a pro day throw-in. We were there. Here's $9.5 million, or whatever, 10 million. Here it is on a 1-year deal. I mean, that's really what the Braves need. I think they need a starting pitcher more than they need a bullpen guy. Yes, the bullpen's gonna take some losses with AJ Mitchell with the Mets, with Joey Menez out. But they've signed a bunch of guys to minor league deals. They went in the Rule 5 draft, which the Braves never go in the Rule 5 draft, and got a pitcher from the Marlins. Like, why couldn't I not think of the Marlins? The Fish. And then you got guys coming back, Angel Perdomo. They liked him with the Pirates. He had Tommy John coming back. See about him. And then a bunch of just big league guys that have had big league experience and had thrown well in the big leagues before, that are going to take some of those spots of, let's get a bunch of quantity of guys, and maybe two of them come up and take a spot. Then you got Desbel Hernandez, who I love, one of the hardest throwers in the big leagues. He'll be there as well. They got options. It's not I don't think it's as a big of a need as a starting pitcher who can get innings. So I don't think they're done. And what direction do they go? That's one of those we'll wait and see. Now, we know the direction that some of these guys are going. They're already set. And that's NFL playoff quarterbacks and the teams, really. To me, I think 8 of the 14 playoff teams have their franchise quarterback currently, obviously. And Bills, Ravens, Chargers, Texans, Green Bay, Eagles, Chiefs, and Lions. You're like, wait a minute. You forgot 2 teams. I said, hold up. I'm saying hold up. Then you have 2 very promising rookies in Jalen Daniels and Bo Nix. I don't want to completely say that they're set yet because it's their rookie year. As good as Jalen Daniels has looked and Bo Nix looked this year, Bo okay in the playoffs. Obviously, we see what Jalen Daniels has done. We're gonna win Rookie of the Year, one of those two, obviously, and I think Daniel's a Pro Bowl already. Pro Bowl. So there's that. The only reason I don't want to say anoint them completely yet is because what happened with Stroud, who took a step back in year 2, even with more film on him, and then Trevor Lawrence as well took a step back a little bit. So yes, they're still committed to Trevor Lawrence because they locked him up. CJ Stroud obviously looked good his rookie year and played okay this year. He's still on his rookie contract, and he hasn't been locked up yet. Then to me, you have two placeholders in Baker Mayfield and Stafford. I don't think Baker is your franchise quarterback. Then Stafford, obviously an older guy. He's already won a Super Bowl with the Rams. He's talking about retirement, kind of the deal he signed. It's a wait and see. He's an older guy who's solid and productive, and you can win with him with their guys around him. And obviously they did a few years ago. Then you've got two franchises who are kind of confused right now of what they want to do. And that's the Steelers, of what they're doing with free agency and Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, both free agents. You know, where are you going? Fields played pretty well in the few games before Russell Wilson took over, come back from injury. Do you believe in him? Is he the you can re-sign Justin Fields? I don't think you have to back up a truck for him, but or do you want to go draft? You know, there's options of that, and then you got the Minnesota Vikings, who I feel like in a conundrum. You know, they drafted J.J. McCarthy last year. You thinking he's going to be their guy, and then he gets hurt, and you sign Sam Darnold as your backup, and he leads them to one of the best years ever. And this is by far the best Sam Darnold has ever played, and he's a free agent. I mean, do you look at Sam Darnold based on the full season, or you look at him in a microcosm of the last 2 games where he struggled against the Lions, which was probably his most pressure-filled game to be the number 1 seed. Obviously, they lose that game to Detroit, and then he loses in the postseason. And the Steelers, like I said, the Steelers are in a good enough but not good enough situation already. So it's a tricky situation for these two teams who had 10 wins or more. Where they're going to the quarterback situation. Of course, the age-old saying goes, if you have a quarterback, you got a chance, which is really, was fully on display in the postseason. Allen Daniels, who I obviously mentioned earlier, Patrick Mahomes and Hurts. What have they done this postseason? They've played well. And what have they done? Oh, yeah, all the teams have won. We'll get into the Mahomes thing later when we talk about the playoffs. Games from last week. Because I know what you're thinking. And then you had Jared Goff and Lamar, still franchise quarterbacks, played bad because of the turnovers. And then you had Bo Nix play okay and Stroud play okay. They played okay. Now, to me, this is where I'm at. I think the only teams that have quarterbacks, their franchise quarterbacks that did make the playoffs were Dallas, Jags, because they got a bunch of money into Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, the Bengals. Miami-ish is sold on Tua, kind of. And then Arizona with Kyler Murray. And then you got this team, which is interesting. The 49ers and Brock Purdy. Going to be a free agent next year. 1 more year on his rookie deal. And what are they doing? Are they going to lock him up? Are they going to take him to free agency? Where does that deal fall? I've got a topic on Brock Purdy I'm going to probably bring back here, so I don't really want to get into it too much now of a comparison that I think might be a good barometer for a Brock Purdy and his contract and where it could potentially fall and set the market for him. And speaking of the market and where it falls, Bills Ravens, what a fun game. I mean, I think for me it was the most exciting game, going into that round of the playoffs with the teams, what they've done this year. Two great quarterbacks, two MVP candidates with Lamar and Allen, both turnovers. That really cost the Baltimore. Yes, you want to talk about the drop 2-point conversion from Allen. I mean Andrews, excuse me, Mark Andrews. And I like how Lamar said it was my fault. He took some of the blame with the turnovers and all that, which that's always really good. That's good. I like that on his part, not throwing his teammates under the bus. But even we got to remember that 2-point conversion would only have tied the game. The Bills would have had a minute 33 to try to drive down and score. And the way that game was going, the way Allen was playing and their offense was moving, I think they would have gotten the score. They might not have it, could have gone to overtime, yes, but there's plenty of time. A minute 30, they had time to get down and score, field goal, touchdown, whatever the case may be, to win that game, I think. But yeah, that's a fun, exciting game. Then you've got the Texans Chiefs, and man, if you breathe on Patrick Mahomes, 15-yard penalty. And that's basically what happened. You saw two plays, two calls that were BS, absolutely ridiculous calls that Patrick Mahomes got that were 15-yarders that could have changed the complexion of that ball game. I mean, I think one was on third down, right? I mean, and anytime you get two 15-yard penalties, that's huge. It moves the chains, and it's a first down. It's a big deal. There's two of them in that game where even Aikman and Joe Buck were like, come on, that's not a flag. Everybody but the Chiefs fans knows and knew that wasn't a flag. Patrick Mahomes is going to get him. We've seen it. And he'll still get him even though he's going to go up against Josh Allen, the Bills, this week. Tomorrow on Sunday. He's going to get him because he's Patrick Mahomes. Ridiculous. And then you have the Rams-Eagles. Interesting game, fun game at turnovers. That's the margin sometimes with these teams. It's obviously close game. Two Rams lost fumbles. Eagles are able to get it done. And then what a shootout of a game between Washington and the Lions. Wild back and forth games. Daniels played great. And then once again, cold environment. No, excuse me, what cold environment? It was indoors. I'm dumb. But once again, what did the Lions do? 4 turnovers. It's going to happen. That's small margins. And, man, good for Washington. One step away from the Super Bowl with the rookie quarterback. Like, how fun, how exciting is that for them? And we got another fun week. This is, from a fan perspective, I think, especially if we're going to the games, probably the most fun games because it's not corporate. It's in the home building of a team with their fans, and I'm excited about it. Fingers crossed for the Bills. And I don't really care the other side. But I think America's pulling for the Bills because Patrick Mahomes has already won 2 back-to-back. He's already won, 3 total, right? And 2 back-to-back. We've seen enough for him for a year or two. And the Bills have been so close. And I'm not even going all the way back to the Super Bowls of losing 3 straight Super Bowls. I'm not going back to that. even Bills fans struggles. But I'm talking about just recent of not being able to get over the hump of the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's time we see that. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media, on X. You're listening to Lock It Down Sports. I'm Locke Hoover. I'll talk to you next week.